I want to do just a little bit today and show everybody something I'm doing as part of a side project. So, in addition to playing with too many electronics, I absolutely love to play around with tabletop role-playing games. And one of the things that goes along with tabletop role-playing games, sometimes we get a little bookkeeping. Not my favorite thing. Don't exactly go home to play paychecks and income taxes, but players like to get rewarded, so I want to keep track of their rewards. And the most important thing is I don't want to have to think about it. So just a second here, and we're going to let the world know that we're online doing this. And with that up, what we're looking at here is a little tiny experience tracker. And the goal with this is I want to be able to take a simple file. Really don't want to have to think about this file. And for each game, I want to be able to do something just bone simple like this. So I want to be able to write the character. So it's Elise, and Elise earned 1 point. And the reason Elise earned 1 point was for dramatic failure to resist sex appeal. And then I want to be able to do this for multiple characters. So Aldo point 1 reason Aldo fell off his horse when trying to look like the dashing hero. At the end of the game, I want to get a report, something like this, and it'll say Elise 1, Aldo 5, because maybe Aldo fell off his horse a lot. I just kind of don't have to think about it and do all the math. I want the computer to do this for me. So, played around a little bit with YAML CPP. That's this library right here. Seems to work really well. It can, given a data type, it can serialize and deserialize that data type. It can theoretically handle lists of data types. We also want to use test-driven development, just like I do for all my other projects. And so just for a little variety here, we're going to use Google Test. Google Test works great when you're working with C++. And I think what we'll do today is just set up testing with Google Test. I haven't set up testing yet. All I did was get connected to the library. So let's add a new folder to our project. There we go, a new directory. And we'll call it test because we're not very original about these sorts of things. And inside of tests, we'll add a new CMake file. And we do want to add this file to Git. And let's see what goes into our CMake file. I suppose it'd be a really good idea to have a project, wouldn't it? So let's give it a test name. Test project is equal to project name dash GTest. It keeps it nice and simple. And I want my test name to, we're going to add an executable. Call it test name. And we're going to make a variable in a minute called test sources. Alright, well, I guess we'll just leave that as it is. And we need to because this is a GTest test, I need to link this to a GTest library, and there's another unit called GTest main that I want to link it to as well. Something that you're warned about as well. When you're using GTest, is that you need to allow C++ override, which normally just means use C++11. But we'll let CMake actually work all that goodness out for us. And for just a second here, I need to go get my standard boilerplate for how do I make this is sort of my standard boilerplate for here's how I figure out all of the things that are in here. Now, in addition to getting all the files automatically, we're using Google Test. CMake and CTest together know how to work together, so I can use CTest's automatic tools for doing this. So there's a Google Test module that we can use. And I am actually looking that up right now. And just so you Back to our editor. And if you're not familiar with what you're looking at here, this is CLion. This is an editor that I love. I have paid for multiple times just because it tends to get the job done better. Now, it doesn't do well if I have to use... if I have to work on a particularly large project. When this first came out, I was working on a vehicle in-dash system, and that project was significantly too large for CLion to handle. But for something like this, it works really well. Okay, so according to the documentation, just using Google Discover tests is going to cause GTest, which is the default testing framework, built into CMake. It's going to cause GTest to query my executable and determine the right number of tests to use out of there. So, with a little bit of luck, that works. We should also ask about GTest. What do I have to do to make that happy? Okay, well, that wasn't the answer. All right, and so at the top level, in our top level CMake, we also need to do and include GTest. Okay, so that looks promising. Let's see how that goes for us. Okay, oops. My top level has not added. Maybe there's something else I should talk about here too. So I'm using newer CMake features here. This fetch content. I can declare that I've got this piece of external content that I want to use. Give it its Git repo, which Git tag I want to use, and I don't have to put this in if I don't want, but that's the one I'm using. And then fetch content make available. We'll download that locally and load up all the proper variables for this new content. And that makes it, rather than having to manage all my dependencies through Git submodules or something similar, I can just use these. And this really is making life a lot easier for me now that I can use this. So let's go have a look at adding in let's add our subdirectory in. And this project is called Experience tab. So we're going to add, as a dependency of this, we're going to add, oops. We're going to add our test target here. And that's because I don't want this to build if we haven't built it, if the test target hasn't built. What this hasn't done is, what that doesn't do is force the test targets to pass. But we'll get to that in a little bit. And really that's probably something more what we should set up in our pipeline build. In fact, let me take that out of there right now. I know I don't want that. That's something I would want in a pipeline. But there might be a valid reason to run a local test when I don't have a valid, or I might want a local build that I can examine, even though I don't have a valid test running, or my tests aren't passing. So let's hop back in here. All right, that's working. Yeah, actually, that's all really cool. So let's take ourselves over and let's write a first test. And what I'm doing right now is I am 100% cargo culting this whole thing here. I've done this before. I don't want to think about it. So let's get a test class up and running. And so as a user of this, maybe we should talk about the goals of this project before I get all excited about writing a first test. Be helpful for everybody here to be able to see this. I'm renaming this. It's unfortunately, because of the way I'm capturing the screen, that's not going to be that visible for you. So this file I'm going to rename experience.yaml is going to be renamed game day 1. All right, and I'm getting warned here that this is really going to blow up on me, and that's fine. I'm going to improve it and rename it. So the reason why that's getting mad is because here, this is some spike code that I wrote where I wanted to read that experience.yaml file, now called gameday1.yaml, and output the result there. And that was just to make sure that I correctly written the translation. That translation's written. I'm happy with it right now. Okay, so let's, just to make everything happy, let's make a new C++ class down here, or C++ file down here. So here we actually want to test read day. I'm not going to add it to any targets because we have automatic target generation going. We are going to add that file to Git. And I have created my file now. And so these files are pretty simple, really. Test P. Oops, this is really going to go a lot further if I include the right files. All right, the compile will go way better there. I also need to include experience event.h. And I'm going to need no, I'm not actually going to need any of those things. Okay. So the idea here is that a game day is really just going to be a list of these events. I actually want it to be just a little bit more. I want something up here that identifies what the game just a description that we can use when we generate those big reports about what was this session about. So we're going to give it a session. We're going to give it a session property. That may change in time. We will see. So in doing that, I now know how to make a new class. I have a game day, or a class called game day. And then this is going to become part of the top level project. And there'll be a game day.cpp and a game day.h. That'll be great. And this is going to be forced to include an experience event. And it will include standard string library. And I suppose I should okay. And the game day item has a default a property called session, and it has an experience event, experience events. That's an experience event, so we'll go put that there. This is in fact going to be a vector of experience events, so I need to include vectors. Okay, and it has those two things. And I want to be able to serialize this. And one of the rules for serializing in libgaml is we need an equality operator. So we're going to go declare one. So this lets us compare two experience events, or in this case, two game days. To see if they're equal. Now, in fact, I also kind of want a game date in there. I haven't quite worked out how to do that yet, and maybe I'm just going to skip on that for right now. When a game occurred is often one of the most important things, and certainly for sorting, what we care most about is the date that something occurred. But I don't want to delve into that right now. Let's just get into basics. Okay, and so already I've got something I can test here. So I want to go over here to gameday.cpp. Say that I've got one of these. We're going to return false just because we can. So instead of calling this test read day, I'm going to call this test game day. So we're going to refactor it. There it goes. Refactor. And now this is really easy. Suddenly I do a test. I have to include gameday.h, and that's good. Now something that didn't take into account. I need to include the parent directory. Because that's where all my source code lives. And so I very aggressively want to reload the CMake project because I think it's missing stuff. Oh, it's kind of grumbly. If you look at the bottom there, it's really mad. Add executable call with incorrect number of arguments. Line 14, keyword signature for target link libraries has already been used with the target GTest. Okay. It's just a little bit grumbly. So it's on line 14. That's right here. Oh, I used the wrong thing there. It's not test name. Well, it's going to be test name now. And look at that. It's test name. Save that. And we will reload this CMake project. Okay, now it didn't pick up my... Oh. I'm also getting hurt here by not using the right name. Okay, so... There we go. We have a happy CMake. And now we can build our test. Now we don't have any tests in it. But hey, we've all got our crosses to bear here. And so we're in our test game day now. So our test suite, we're just going to call this test suite game day. So we're going to say identical game days are equal. And that's a little crabby there, and I don't know why it's crabby. Let's see why it's crabby. Okay. Didn't like me using a... Oh, test P is for a parameterized test. That would be bad. We don't want to do that. There we go. We'll just use test. One of the nice things about Google Test is it has parameterized tests. I can give it a data set. It will run the test for every member of that data set and report the results independently. Really great feature, just not what I'm using right now. So let's see. Let's create... I'm going to create a game day called left, a game day called right, and left session will be something simple. Just a second. Identical sessions. I'm not going to have this compare the actual lists of events. I'm just going to look at the session names. We're keeping this really simple right now. So we're going to assert true. Left is equal to right. And if I were to now run this test, and I'm looking for my test target. There we go. There's my test target, experience tab-test. Let's run this and let's see what happens. Let's see how much we get away with. Okay, if you look at that, we've got an undefined operator to operator equals for those things. Oh, that's going to slow us right down. Okay. So our CMake list down here, well, it's got a couple of problems. First, we need to define the system under test. That wasn't what I wanted to do at all. All right, so one of the items is gameday.cpp. Experience event I'm going to need as well. Actually, don't know if I need experience yet or not. No, we're going to put it in. Can't hurt. Probably. And the other thing that we need to put in here, we need to link the YAML-CPP library. It's just not going to work without the YAML-CPP library. There'd be a world of undefined references. So I'm going to auto-reload that. Oh, I don't know if that really ran or not, so let's find out. What did CMake say? CMake said it's good. So I'm satisfied with that result. Let's go back here. Let's have a look. Building. Oh, I didn't like some of that stuff, but that's into YAML-CPP. YAML-CPP generates warnings. Okay, so we still have an undefined reference to operator equals for game days. So now what's happening is I've got constant references instead of testing for equality there. And some of this is changes that have happened in the language over time that I frankly haven't kept up with. So we're gonna trust that the compiler is telling us the right thing to do. And we're gonna go over here. We're gonna make this match. We're gonna hope this all works. Still didn't get that reference. All right, maybe I'm doing something else that's really dumb up here. GameDay.cpp is included. Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's included. Let's reload. Okay, we're good. Let's go back up here, run our test, get our results. Oh, look at that, it ran. It built and ran. I feel smarter. I feel smarter already. Okay, now, it didn't all come out the way we wanted. So our test was identical sessions are equal. And so our expected value of left to equal the value of right was actually false when we expected true. No, to be fair, that's the result I really expected. So I need to go over here, and this returns false. So now it returns true, and I can go and run my test suite again, and it passes. All right, that's great. Now you'll notice I follow my normal principle here, do the least possible. To make it pass, it returned true. So now I have to go over here and write another test that's going to force it to do the other thing. Okay, sweet. Non-matching sessions are not equal. So game day left, game day right, left session is equal to you're in a tavern, and right session equals for initiative or some reasonable facsimile thereof. Now I want to assert false. Left is equal to right. Okay, so I've got two tests now. Let's run this and see what happens. Game day suite. My identical sessions are equal is good. Non-messing sessions are not equal is bad. Value of left equals right is true. We actually expect it to be false here. So, I have to go over here. And now we're actually going to have to return this actual equality check here. So let's rerun our test suite, see what we get. Hey, everything's green. Isn't that wonderful? Love it when something comes together like that. All right. I feel like that's not a terrible start for us here. And what to do next? Okay, so I think maybe the next thing, when I read in a session like that, I want to, or read in a game day like that, what I really want to do, I want to make sure it's actually reading the stuff in. So let's make sure that I hooked my libraries incorrectly, since I kind of don't know what I'm doing here. So this is the part of the program where we're going to hop over to our browser.